Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day today. Let us make sure that the stream is fired up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs before we go ahead and get started here. As you can see, we are back at our home base, our new home base. It's been a little bit back and forth over the last couple weeks or so, but we are back in Prescott, and we're making sure that all of the cables that we brought down to the valley continue to work at this higher altitude. So let me make sure you can hear me in the chat. Hello, my friends. It is a beautiful Monday. It is Merry Christmas Eve, and I hope you're getting prepared. I'm totally prepared. All my presents are wrapped and ready. Yeah. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. All right, we're coming in loud and clear. It's working. That's tremendous news, my friends. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gov't. I'm a criminal defense attorney. We got business to attend to today before we embark onto our Christmas and holiday season. We've got an update on Matt Gaetz and the Matt Gaetz report because the Ethics Committee released the report today. Even though Matt Gaetz is no longer a congressman, they decided to publish this as their final Christmas smear instead of Christmas cheer. Get it? So they dropped it. We'll go through it. Matt Gaetz filed a lawsuit last night or this morning, I think it was, to try to stop this report from coming out. But obviously that is now moot. And so we'll go through it because Matt Gaetz has been out defending himself today. And we'll parse through the report, see what's inside, and then take a look at Matt Gaetz's lawsuit and what his response is to the allegations in this latest Christmas smear. Then we'll talk about the Joe Biden commutations because he commuted a bunch of people on death row. They're not on death row anymore. And there's a list of some pretty significant bad hombres on this list that we'll go through. And as you know here, your boy is opposed to the death penalty because I believe we've killed, and I think it's pretty well confirmed now, innocent people. But we got to ask ourselves what Joe Biden is doing here. Does he really care about the death penalty, or is there something else here? Because there are 3 people who are still on death row. So apparently Joe Biden is okay with some people being on death row while others are not. And doesn't that undermine the entire principle of his justification? We'll come back to that. Then we'll talk about Luigi Mangione because he was there in New York outside the courtroom today. There was a whole fan club of Luigi Mangione Mangioniacs who came out to support him. And they were even joking about this on SNL over the weekend. And you can hear the crowd cheering for this guy. Even the show host is like, why are you guys cheering on this one? A little uncomfortable, but as we know, Taylor Lorenz and some others on the left get a lot of joy out of shooting somebody in the back multiple times and then leaving him for death on the street. So we'll go through that. Now, surprisingly, we actually have video footage of the arraignment. We haven't seen much video footage in New York. Tried to get our hands on video footage when President Trump was being prosecuted, but they didn't have any for us then. Now they do. Mangione, his arraignment was live streamed, and we got to see him dressed up. We got to see him plead not guilty, and so we'll see what he said. And then we'll round out the day talking about Festivus and the disgusting government waste that Rand Paul uncovers every year around this time. We'll go through the report. It's a 42-pager. He doesn't waste a lot of time getting into the meat and potatoes. We'll see how disgusting and wasteful our government is. And then, of course, we'll hear from you. And thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us live today. I know that it's the holiday season and you've got friends and family in there around here, and hopefully you're inviting them to the show. We appreciate that. Tell them, hit that subscribe button if they can. But it's a beautiful season, my friends. I'm really glad to be here. Want to give you a quick update on AmFest if you'll indulge your boy for a minute. We had a great time there. We were there for 4 days. We set up a booth. I got a bunch of pictures I want to share with you just so you can see how cool it was. As you can see, this was day 1 when we were setting up the booth. We had a great banner that was printed from our friends courtesy of personalbrand.com. And we were taking selfies with everybody. Jacob Chansley was there. The alleged QAnon shaman is how they labeled him, right, to kind of smear him. We met all these amazing people from all over the place. We had a great interview with this guy, Sammy, the Holocaust survivor. I think he said he was 82 or 85. It was amazing. And he's a motivational speaker. We met with Ivan Raiklin, who was there. Shout out to Ivan. We got to stop by. He popped on the stream for just a few minutes. Got to say hello to him. We had some amazing other friends come by. Some people, some locals in Arizona. Shout out to all our friends who are there. We also did an interview with this guy. He's an attorney from the Pacific Justice Institute. They're crushing it on all sorts of issues. This, you know him, lectern leader, Adam Johnson in the house. We had a great talk, 2 great talks, actually. He came back and was talking about Dexter Taylor, a gentleman who has been incarcerated, much like lectern leader was, by a corrupt government. And so that was our banner. That's what it looked like. And it was a ton of fun. That was Adam Johnson. Look at these young men. Look at these young gentlemen. Okay. These guys were dapper as hell, all dressed up, looking sharp as can be. They were out there hitting the streets, man. It was a lot of fun. So we got to meet with them. We met and did interviews with a bunch of people. You can see more photos here, kind of the highlight reel, some couple shots. These are our friends, Michael and Natalie, who do personal branding and podcasting and all sorts of cool stuff. This is our friend, Ricky P. Ricky P was clutch over the weekend, and Ricky P gifted the show this nice little wood carved thing. It's incredible. And so Ricky was amazing. You can see him with Roger Stone right back there. Roger Stone dropped by the booth and we got to have an interview with him. And so we're editing that. You can see his team was back over there. Our booth was right next to this Veterans Memorial. It was super amazing. And so we had people just coming right back and forth right past our booth. And it was just a ton of fun. You see live streaming there with the one and only Roger Stone. And that was a pretty cool experience. It was a lot of fun. So we'll have that one coming out. You can see we also have, Chase PA was there. O'Malley in the house. Chase PA was there. We talked with him. Guys were instrumental in securing a victory in Pennsylvania. And then, as you can see, we had a bunch of videos and it was just a ton of fun. And so shout out to our friends. There's Michael and Ricky in the house, personalbrand.com. They were really helpful in helping us run the booth and get everything set up. And so it was a ton of fun, my friends. If you haven't been over to AmFest, I'd encourage you to check it out. You can see it was just a ton of people, a lot of fun and enjoyment. And so shout out to the crew who put that whole thing together, Charlie Kirk and his whole team. It was amazing and a lot of fun. There's a lot of good America energy out there, my friends. And so for those of you who got to meet, thanks for stopping by the booth. It really meant a lot to me to get to see you and get to meet you and to shake your hands and just what's up, because we never get to do it in person. It's always here across the tubes. And so it's a real special treat. So thank you for that. And thanks to Mama G and Greg for helping out and holding the fort down for us and bringing pastés to reinvigorate our souls as we were working. So, and hanging. But my friends, without any further ado, let's get into the business on the day, because we do have some stuff to unpack today. It's not Christmas yet. Let's talk about Matt Gaetz. Here is the latest. In a final holiday smear, the Ethics Committee dropped the report on Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz is not taking this one lying down. You can see this is the report. We'll parse through it. It's 42 pages. We'll see what's inside. And there's also, what you'll notice, a dissenting viewpoint in here. And a big question that is coming up throughout this entire conversation is jurisdiction. Do they have it over Matt Gaetz? Since he's no longer a congressman, he resigned, he's not running again. Why are they releasing smear reports on him in the final hour, right before Christmas, no less? Now, Gaetz is not lying down, like I said. Now, he filed this lawsuit. You can see same day the report got released, but it is mostly going to be moot now because what he was asking for was an injunction, and the injunction would have stopped the congressional committee from releasing the report. They've also already done that, so the court really can't unring that bell, can't pull the report back inside. And so Gaetz now may have other options. We'll see. Now, I think this was a long shot anyways, due to the fact that it's Congress. And as we know, as we saw with the J6 cases and the illegal select committee, the courts don't really care what Congress does, especially out of DC. They just say, well, as long as it's bad for Republicans, we're going to let Congress do it because separation of powers, and we can't go in there and intervene. Even though we're not asking you to intervene with the January 6th Select Committee when we're talking about Steve Bannon, we're asking you to invalidate their subpoena, which is trying to enforce something outside of Congress. But here you can see Matt Gaetz, the reason I want to go through this is because this is his response. He's saying, I reject all this stuff, okay? I deny the allegations. And so we'll see what the committee said. We'll come back. We'll see what Matt Gaetz says in response. And Matt Gaetz was also out there today. And as we go through the report, let's pay close attention to the credibility of the witnesses that are inside the report. As you can see, Matt Gaetz posted this. He says, look, here's another one of these ethics witness people who is now going to be making up this report. They're saying that she was an alleged prostitute, and she claims that she was indeed not actually that. Okay, they say that she was one of those. And when it was discussed during the depot, she said no. So here's the question to this woman. Says, were you escorting? Question, were you working? What were you doing? Objection, form. There's like 3 questions in that one sentence. Can you please break that down, dummy? Answer from this woman. I wouldn't consider it any of those. There was a lot of times where I did not get paid for being there. In that time, I thought a lot of these people were my friends. Okay, all right. So you wouldn't characterize anything you did in 2017 as sex work? Objection, form, but you can answer. She says no. It wasn't that type of work, okay? So she was there for other reasons, and maybe they had intercourse. And this is a very similar pattern we see all over, well, the world and Congress and Washington, D.C. and Diddy situations where people are traveling around, people are getting paid for different things. Part of Diddy's trafficking charge was that somebody flew across state lines to have intercourse. That's trafficking, an adult person, not under duress. Voluntarily got on a plane, flew over there, trafficking. Okay. They said it was a model who just got on an airplane, flew across state lines and had intercourse on her own or his own volition. But same thing is happening here. And you can see where they want this to go. They want it to be trafficking. So, oh, Gaetz paid you to come across state lines and have intercourse with him? Trafficking, just like Diddy. What is that? A non-bondable offense. Diddy can't get out of custody. They were trying to get Gaetz on that too. This woman didn't bite on it. Now, here was another post that Gaetz was sharing. Gaetz said, the quote from this woman, I never charged anyone anything. So the question to this woman, no. What I'm saying is, if you're having intercourse with Gaetz versus, I don't know, some guy who's not as attractive as Gaetz, would you charge a different? Well, I never charged anyone anything. Okay. It was just given to me. Okay. Like I was there, had intercourse, I got money. Object to the form. Okay, would that be a different amount of payment based upon that? Objection from 2 people. She says, I never charged anyone anything. It was all their choice to give me whatever they wanted. So I was never asking for money, never sending them an invoice. Here's more testimony. Matt Gaetz says, this is more testimony you're not going to see in this little report that we'll look at. This is clearly not prostitution under any conceivable definition, which is why Gaetz says, I was never charged with a crime. But instead, he just got smeared in a giant report from political opponents. Now, you said before that you got $400 for Matt Gaetz for that. I did. All right. Were you promised that ahead of time or anything? No, we never discussed money. Okay. So it was after the fact. It wasn't something that was set up. And you've seen prostitution cases, right, where you see the undercover cops in those TV shows and they're there and they get an agreement, exchange of money, and then boom, they all pop in. And the guy's like, oh, man, it's so close. And they get him. It's not good. Now, that didn't happen here. Gaetz was like, wow, that was incredible. Here's $400. Go get a massage, whatever, right? Whatever. So that's Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz has responded to this in a lawsuit saying these are defamatory allegations and more. But let me show you what the report says. This came out today. You can see a report of the Committee on Ethics, which is hilarious to think that anyone in Congress has ethics. A lot of fun. Now, they write that there's 2 parts to this. There's the initial report, and then there's a little smaller segment that has its dissenting views in there from people who are taking a different take. Now, on this, you'll see on this committee, there's 5 and 5. And if you break this up, actually, what we'll do is we'll change the color here because that's how fancy we are today. We're going to make this blue because these people are the blue team. And as you'll notice, you've got Susan Wild, Veronica Escobar, she's from Texas, but blue, Mark DeSaliner, California, North Carolina, and Glenn Ivey. So we got 5 Democrats versus 5 Republicans on this committee. And you think, well, the Republicans are in charge of the House. So shouldn't they have like one more member or something like that? Or no, they don't. It's split. Michael Guest, chairman, Mississippi. David Joyce, Ohio. Rutherford from Florida. Garabino, New York. Fishbach, Minnesota. Joyce, Ohio, as I said, and Guest, Mississippi. So it's 5 and 5. And the question is, for a while here, we didn't get a report. And the thesis was it's because it was split. It was 50-50. The Republicans were saying no. The Democrats were saying yes, theoretically. Now that has changed. There has been a new vote. So the question is, what has flipped? Which one of these people flipped to the other side and voted to create a 6-4 or a bigger margin? Don't know. But let's see if they give us any insight to this. So here is what they share over from Michael Guest, chairman, Republican. Letter of transmittal says, here is the latest report. Now, there's a big table of contents that we'll fast forward through, and they'll tell us that here now is our report with a dissent. So they're not in agreement on this, the committee itself. They say, in accordance with the House rules and the Committee on Ethics, we hereby submit the following report, and we have the views of the chairman on behalf of the dissenting committee members. So the chairman and some dissenting members. Now, we don't know their names. Here's what they tell us. On April 9th, the committee announced it was investigating Matt Gaetz at the request of the DOJ. 2021, Biden's DOJ. The committee deferred its review during the 117 Congress. So the Department of Justice was investigating Matt Gaetz, and Congress deferred while they were doing that. They said, okay, you got first priority on this. After it was organized for the 118th Congress, the committee then reauthorized its investigation into Gaetz. Specifically, the committee undertook a review of allegations, and that would have been the 118th Congress, I believe, would have been the Democratic Congress. Let's take a look at that just to confirm that. But the 118th is when, the Republicans won. Okay, so the 118th Congress, let's say January 23rd to January 25. So this was a Republican Congress. After it was organized for the 118th, they reauthorized its investigation. And the House of Representatives was narrowly the Republican starting on January 3rd. It's the Congress that we're in now until January 3rd, 2025. Specifically, the committee undertook a review of allegations of Gaetz. We got misconduct, inappropriate images, misused state identification funds, improper gratuity, all sorts of bribes and campaign funds and more. Then there were allegations of other things like misconduct and drug use and more, personal relationship. And they say Gaetz obstructed the government during this. So then on November 14th of this year, not long ago, Matt Gaetz resigned from the House because he was going to be nominated for AG. Now, as a result of this, the committee, they admit, lost jurisdiction to continue its investigation. Gaetz subsequently withdrew from the AG's position, and he has not announced any intent to return back to Congress. So they confirm, yes, we lost our jurisdiction to continue our investigation. You see how they shove that word continue in there? So, I guess we'll stop our investigation, but we'll just release what we've already got. The committee has typically not released its findings after losing jurisdiction in a matter. Look at that. How come you're going to do it now? However, there are a few prior instances where the committee has determined that it was in the public interest to release its findings after a member resigned from Congress. They give us footnote 2. They say, see, we found this other staff report back from 1980 and some other report from 1990. And this was involving Donald Lukens. William H. Boner got nailed on that one. And in the matter of Lukens, so two other people, it looks like, in 1990 and 1987, Lukens and Boner got in trouble. And they released reports after they left. Now, the committee does not release this lightly. Yeah, right. So they're going to release it now. In this instance, although several committee members objected, now we don't know who those people were, a majority of the members of the committee agreed that the findings should be released to the public. So what flipped? Who flipped? It was 5-5, right? They weren't going to release it. It was split somewhere down the middle. Maybe one Republican wanted to release it. Maybe one Democrat didn't. But now the majority has shifted. In sum, the committee found substantial evidence of the following. All right, Matt Gaetz paid women, Matt Gaetz, 17-year-old girl. And let me just say this, just to be ultra clear on this. If allegations of these things are true, I do not condone those actions. Okay, I do not condone or believe in prostitution or obviously anything with anybody underage. Those are criminal allegations, okay? Prostitution is illegal. 17-year-olds, illegal. Possessing illegal drugs is illegal, okay? We're not condoning any of these things. But this is not a criminal indictment. This is a congressional indictment. This has not been presented to a grand jury or anything. Who knows what any of these people did to come to this conclusion of a substantial evidence of the following? What the hell does that even mean? Substantial evidence of what? Of these following, but what is substantial evidence? Let's see if they go into it. Now, in 2018, Gaetz arranged for his chief of staff to assist a woman getting a passport. Gaetz knowingly sought to impede and obstruct the committee's investigation. And by the way, you can also think about this. They just admitted that Gaetz was under investigation from the DOJ. Why would Matt Gaetz, okay, he still is entitled to the presumption of innocence. And this has not been brought as a criminal charge, and we'll talk about the investigation here in a minute. But as it stands, he's entitled to the presumption of innocence. And what we've seen here, Gaetz knowingly and willfully sought to impede and obstruct the committee. Why would he cooperate and waive his right to remain silent and his protections in the criminal investigation to cooperate with an ethics committee? The ethics committee would then take any of his cooperation and turn around and give it right back over to the FBI and the DOJ. So no, okay, that is his right. Now you might say, well, he's a congressperson, and so he has to adhere to congressional ethics, and they can do their own due diligence. And you might see the same thing appear in other arenas, right? If you're a lawyer and maybe you're under bar investigation and you're like, well, I might be charged criminally. Maybe you don't run your mouth to the state bar, but maybe the state bar decides, well, they're going to sanction you and maybe disbar you, right? So you have to play around with those issues in the meantime. But this is not a licensure issue. He's not in Congress anymore. He doesn't have a license. He's already resigned from Congress. They've got no jurisdiction here. The purpose of this is to smear him in case he decides to take higher office. They're dropping it now because they're out of time. They need to get something on the record before everybody forgets about Matt Gaetz and before he comes back 3 years later, 4 years later, and or takes a position after some of the smoke has disseminated. They can say, this is now attached to your record versus 4 years, 5 years from now. We already settled that. Stop bringing up old news. They want to make it on the record. So they say Gaetz has acted in a manner that represents and reflects discreditably upon the House. Yeah, okay. Now, based upon the above, the committee concluded there was substantial evidence that he violated House rules and state and federal laws. And so this is concerning for Gaetz, by the way, because this is giving other prosecutors like Fannie and other local state DAs who may still be trying to make a name for themselves even after this whole lawfare debacle. Maybe they bring up charges. And I don't know when these allegations originated or if a statute of limitations has expired that would moot that. But if they're saying that we've got probable cause to believe this, right? Part of the other reason that they might be doing this and dropping this right now is to incentivize those prosecutions, okay, to give cover to anybody else who wants to bring a charge. And other standards of conduct, including about, these crimes and the provision of special favors. Now, the committee did not find sufficient evidence to conclude that Gaetz violated the trafficking statute, which is wild. Gaetz being arrested, held on non-bondable release conditions. Although Gaetz did cause the transportation of women across state lines for purposes of commercial intercourse, the committee did not find evidence that any of those women were under 18 at the time of travel, nor did the committee find sufficient evidence to conclude that the commercial act were induced by force, fraud, or coercion. All right. So it's like, they're like, oh, so close to Diddy. but not exactly, so we can't get him on that. Now, Gaetz was uncooperative throughout the committee's review. Why would he cooperate with you while he's under federal criminal investigation? He provided minimal documentation, his right to remain silent. He also did not agree to a voluntary interview. Of course not. On July 11th, the committee issued a subpoena to Gaetz. He did not appear, despite having getting notice of it for the same. Now, the committee then sent Gaetz a set of written questions. He issued a public response that ignored everything. Despite Gaetz's claims to the contrary, the committee's singular mission is to protect the integrity of the House. Gag me on that one. To protect the integrity of the House. Okay. You guys allowed Liz Cheney to lie to everybody in the House of Representatives. Now, not necessarily this Congress, but you did. Now, when faced with serious public allegations against the member, the committee has a shared goal to disprove those allegations. Now, they go through procedural history here and they say this is how it happened. They sent 9 requests, 6 FOIA requests, bunch of stuff. Gaetz didn't respond to it. He's under investigation, so why would he? Here are the relevant laws. They talk about the Mann Act, obstruction of Congress, Florida state laws, got it, House rules and conduct. So is anybody in Florida going to prosecute him? Can't have intercourse with somebody who's 17. House rules, right? In the House, you could say, you could argue, yeah, they have the right to their own rules, but they just admitted they don't have jurisdiction over him anymore. The rules apply to people over whom they have jurisdiction. They talk about gifts. They talk about a bunch of other things, and let's parse through it. So they talk about a lot of these things. Transactional relationships. He spent money through Cash App. A lot of transactions to all these different women, lots of money, total amount, former girlfriend, 63 grand, hundreds of dollars to a bunch of other women. And maybe they're splitting bills or whatever, but you can see the report continues to go on, text messages and a lot inside of it. Now, Matt Gaetz is going to respond to this. Let me just get to the end of this, see what the dissenting views say so that they can tell you specifically that in conclusion, based on the above, they say there is substantial evidence that he violated House rules, did a bunch of stuff. Impermissible gifts, special favors, the P word, other things. Now, the statement says that there was no funding authorized in this report and the report is over. So here's the dissent. Here is Michael Guest with other dissenting committee members. Now, I write on behalf of the members of the committee who do not support the release of the report. We believe and remain steadfast in the position that they lost jurisdiction to release to the public any substantive work that was about Matt Gaetz in response to his resignation. Now, while we do not challenge the committee's findings, so they're saying all that's basically true, we take great exception that the majority deviated from our standards and voted to release a report on an individual over whom you have no jurisdiction. You have not done anything like that since 2006. Now, the House rules give the committee jurisdiction over current members. Consistent with these rules, when a member who is under investigation by the committee leaves the House, the committee's standard practice is to close its investigation and make no further statements. We do not believe the rules authorize the committee to continue or expand its jurisdiction as it sees fit. Any precedent to the contrary is extremely rare, inconsistent with the rules, and outweighed by the vast majority of matters, too numerous to list, where you took no action after you lost jurisdiction. So they're singling him out. Now, Gaetz resigned from Congress, withdrew his consideration after winning again, not going to be seated again, and you decided to republish this report because it's an attempt to weaponize your process. Now, we believe that you're operating outside of your jurisdiction, and it's a dangerous departure. And we joined the views of the committee in their prior statement. They said to the extent that any of the public reporting on this matter came from unauthorized disclosures, which are damaging and harmful to the committee's work, cannot do that. So the committee needs its confidentiality to do its job. So the report obviously has a lot more details in there. If you want to go read the juicy bits, you're free to do that, of course. But here is what Gaetz says in response to this. He filed a 40-page lawsuit same day the report was released. And his lawsuit is an attempt to stop the report from coming out. Obviously, the report is now out. So what can the court do to rein that back in? Very little. And what kind of damages can Matt Gaetz get against these Congress people who are all going to sit back and claim legislative immunity? Probably not much. But here's what he submitted. And inside is his explanation and his rejection of the allegations, which, as always, are allegations. And he wrote the following. He says, all right, I was a member of Congress from January 2017 all the way to November 13th. Now, during a portion of that time, the Ethics Committee began an investigation related to previously unsubstantiated allegations of misconduct. After resigning, they then improperly continued their investigation, and they voted, apparently, to publicly release the reports. They didn't even give any notice to Matt Gaetz or anybody. We learned that on December 22nd, just the day before he filed this lawsuit, that they intended to release the information as soon as 9 a.m. Now, their apparent intention to release its report after explicitly acknowledging that it lacks jurisdiction even in the release, saying it's not following its own constitutional due process, not adhering to its own rules. And this is an unprecedented overreach that is going too far. Saying Matt Gaetz has standing, saying that members of Congress, former members of Congress, do maintain standing. Okay, it's not like us suing them. He can challenge congressional actions that threaten personal injury to his rights. There was another case called Powell where the court found, yeah, you can sue. You can sue to get back pay. And here he faces a concrete injury from the committee's ultra virus action, meaning outside the law. And yeah, he's not a member of Congress anymore, but they're harming him. Now, this case is fundamentally distinct from other cases where other people have been expelled from Congress. And courts often will decline to review these types of things. However, the present case is not challenging a disciplinary action, unlike these other cases. So you can hear our claim. We do have standing. They tell us that Matt Gaetz is a private citizen, okay? He's a former representative from Florida. Michael Guest is a defendant, Republican from Mississippi. He's on the committee. Now, they made their first public statement about investigating Matt Gaetz way back, April 9, 2021. The Committee of Ethics, they said, the committee is aware of public allegations that Matt Gaetz may have engaged in misconduct on the House floor. And so the committee, pursuant to the House rules, will begin an investigation. Great. So that investigation starts April 9th. Then on February 15th, the Department of Justice advised Matt Gaetz it was not pursuing criminal charges against him. DOJ investigated this. No charges for the trafficking, for obstruction, or any other federal charges. Now, the allegations investigated by the DOJ were the same ones the committee was investigating. Then we noticed that as soon as the DOJ ended their report, they were not going to bring any charges. Guess what? The committee picks it back up. May 23rd, they're like, oh, man, they didn't charge him. I guess we better investigate him ourselves then. And then we'll just say he did the trafficking or very close to that, even though the DOJ didn't charge him with any crimes. So then on November 13th, he resigned from Congress. He was nominated for AG. And then he resigned after he resigned on December 5th, Gaetz is out of Congress. Then the defendants voted to publicly release reports related to the investigation into Gaetz throughout the media. Despite the media coverage, they pushed a press release on the same date without confirmation of their decision to publicly release information to the plaintiffs related to Matt Gaetz' investigation. Now, remember, there was like a back and forth. They're like, are we going to release it or not release it? We didn't really know, and they decided no. Now, at no time has Matt Gaetz been notified that they were going to publicly release any of this stuff. At no time did Matt Gaetz, has he been provided copies of any of the materials at all. He has had no opportunity to even respond to these conclusions of these Congress people. Now, Gaetz has frequently and vehemently declared his innocence regarding the alleged misconduct, and he's entitled to that as an American, and requested defendants cease their investigation and provide him appropriate due process rights. Now, they've been unresponsive to his demands. On December 22nd, then, just one day before they filed this lawsuit, Matt Gaetz learned of the potential that they're going to publicly release a report at 9 a.m. the next day. Despite media reports, the Ethics Committee, who apparently have no ethics or notice at all, no care for due process whatsoever, Didn't even tell him. He found out through the media. The investigation by the Ethics Committee into Matt Gaetz are governed by the rules of the Committee on Ethics, and their own reports explicitly states it loses jurisdiction when they resign. The limitation has been consistently applied in many cases. In fact, here you go. Stephen Palazzo, okay, didn't release a report. How about this one? Fortenberry lost its jurisdiction. Hagendorn, no more. Representative Reed, gone. Here's another one, and it goes on. Now, the consistent pattern is that you lose jurisdiction. It's been repeatedly affirmed. You can't release it. So we know this. Now, on May 24th, about a few months ago, plaintiff provided statements to the Congress Ethics Committee, and those statements are adopted here as statements of fact. They responded in a letter. They say, all right, Ethics Committee, you allege that Gaetz engaged in misconduct, including violations of federal law related to trafficking and R and the P. This allegation, says Gaetz, is false. These allegations were investigated by the DOJ and the investigation was completely dropped. You are eminently aware that this was a thorough investigation that exonerated me. But because numerous leaks from your committee, they suggest you're re-interviewing witnesses that were already interviewed by the DOJ, and you are seeking to release the DOJ case file. You also allege that Gaetz may have engaged in illicit drug use, including the distribution of coke, ganja, and other things, including commercial activity. Well, guess what? This allegation is false. You allege that Gaetz may have shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, including some nudes. False. You allege that Gaetz may have misused state ID records or unauthorized review of Florida driver's license records. Also false. You said that Gaetz may have converted campaign funds, including for drugs and intercourse. This allegation is false, and how dare you? The Federal Election Commission investigated allegations of misuse of campaign funds, and they found those to be baseless too. They voted unanimously to hold that there was no reason to believe any of that and that I converted campaign funds to personal use. Not that they just believed my story. There was no evidence to refute it. See attached as Exhibit A if you want to read more on that. Gaetz continues. You allege that Gaetz may have accepted a bribe, improper gratuity, or impermissible gift, including through travel-related expenses to the Bahamas, like Fannie Willis. Well, guess what? This allegation is false. Again, these allegations were investigated by the DOJ. No charges were brought against me at all. You have received voluminous documentary evidence from me demonstrating the falsity of this allegation. And also, to my detriment, says Gaetz, your committee, with publicly reported Democratic staff at the helm, reopened this apparently endless investigation this Congress without any complaint by anyone. And it seems your investigation exists largely as a platform to release harmful leaks about me, often falsely implying improper conduct on my part. And as you know, Rules 18 and 19 of the committee contemplate establishing an investigative subcommittee for matters wherein members could be compelled to offer testimony. And furthermore, I have written you 13 times regarding the leaks springing from your investigation. And you can see my correspondence that I've already attached to you as Exhibit B. Now, you have failed to stop these leaks, remediate them, or even to slow them down. Thus, I demand that the committee address this issue prior to me providing any oral testimony to the committee. Gaetz and his team continue. They say throughout its investigation, this ethics committee has systematically denied Gaetz fundamental protections required by its own rules. You haven't given Gaetz any access to any evidence that you gathered during the investigation. You haven't given him any meaningful opportunity to present any exculpatory evidence that would show his innocence. He has not been able to subpoena relevant witnesses or documents. No opportunity, meaningful opportunity to respond to specific allegations. And so, upon information and belief, it is their belief that the Ethics Committee's intention to release the reports that they are filled with untruthful and defamatory information about Gaetz, which, if publicly released, would significantly damage his standing and reputation in the community. Once released, the damage to Gaetz's reputation and standing would be immediate, severe, and irreversible, which is why they released it immediately. On 12/23, when judges and clerks and everybody are racing out the door, like, yeah, we're going to file an injunction. We're going to read Matt Gaetz's lawsuit and grant an injunction. We already tapped into that eggnog, baby. No, not going to happen. Nicely timed. Ethics committee times it in a most unethical fashion. Isn't that fun? They're out of time. And they want to release it before the new Congress comes in. So they timed it right here on 12/23. They could have done it 2 weeks ago, but Matt Gaetz would have been able to file this and the courts would have processed it. So they notify the media they're releasing at 9 a.m. Then they do that. No way they can get it back in. So they drop it. Once released, the damage immediate, already happened. The committee's findings could carry an imprimatur of official congressional action, like Congress found this. No, it's just an ethics committee. Media coverage would be immediate and widespread. No adequate remedy exists to retract or to correct information once released. And so the damage is going to be clearly done. Now, they say we've got some different claims for relief here. This is a violation of Matt Gaetz's constitutional rights. Okay, the Due Process Clause of the Fifth Amendment prohibits the government from depriving a citizen of their liberty without due process of law. It's also a violation of privacy. It's also defamation under D.C. common law, saying that the release of the statements without giving Gaetz an opportunity to review any of this or to respond to any of this would constitute defamation under D.C., and they exceed their congressional and statutory authority to do any of this anyways. And so they ask in the lawsuit that was filed today, which is now moot, everybody's home for Christmas, issue a temporary restraining order to stop them from publicly releasing the report. Too late. They didn't even give Gaetz an opportunity to even look at it before they published it. Set an expedited briefing schedule before the full consideration of this litigation. There's obviously not going to be a briefing schedule because it's moot now. Order any temporary restraining order, issue without bond, and award us attorney's fees and more. So, man, they filed this. These guys were probably just like banging out this filing to get it submitted immediately and to try to stop it from coming out. They also sent in a motion for temporary restraining order. Of course, the filing has been released. And so the report is now out there. Matt Gaetz may want to amend his complaint, may want to shift this into a defamation claim or file a new claim. But Congress released the report because they wanted one final holiday smear. They didn't want Matt Gaetz to get too far away from these allegations. And so they were probably sitting around in their group texts, maybe their Christmas parties, satanic, whatever's going on in DC, and colluding to connive this report to come out on 12/23. And they did it super fast, all intentionally. They did it so Matt Gaetz couldn't respond. And they know the DOJ investigated this stuff. Matt Gaetz catches one final one before the holiday season, but we're sure he'll be back. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this saga and more. We got to be mindful of the Republicans, okay? The Republicans who are in power. I don't know if these are friends of Kev McCarthy or friends of Mitch McConnell, or if they're being promised some other things or a part of the power structure. But Matt Gaetz gets one final elbow on the way out right before the holiday season. We're going to be here to keep tabs on these backstabbing Republicans. We hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you back here on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. We're just done with that segment. We're going to change gears a little bit and talk about one person who is not going to be on death row. Well, a bunch of people who are not going to be on death row are all in the subject of this next conversation happening now, talking about Biden's commutations. Biden commuting a bunch of people on death row. And some of them are pretty heinous. Well, all of them are pretty heinous, but three of them are going to stay on death row because apparently they're much more heinous. And Joe Biden's death penalty policy really doesn't make any logical sense with any consistency. You can see he published this today saying, I am now going to commute federal death row inmates. And there are some pretty serious folks on this list. NY posted a background on this. They say, pretty stunning here. A couple points on that. Stunning Joe Biden's doing anything based on what we've seen of him recently. And we are also asking what this is really about. Is this because Joe Biden believes in the death penalty, or is this some kind of a shiny object to distract people from other pardons? Let's take a look. They say 3 notorious fiends will stay on death row, but 37 are coming off. And some of the people are responsible for very bad things. Among those getting this holiday cheer, Thomas Sanders, 2010 kidnapped, shot Lexus Roberts 4 times, cut her throat in Louisiana. No death penalty for him. We've got another one, Anthony Battle, murdered an Atlanta prison guard with a hammer. Life sentence for eliminating his wife, who was a U.S. Marine at the time, 1987. This person, Jorge Avaliva Torres, 2 girls, brutal deaths and terrible things, 8 and 9 at the time, who had been riding their bicycles, these young girls, in a neighborhood before they got murdered by this psychopath demon. 4 years later, strangled a naval officer, someone else, in her barracks. So you can see, rest in peace to these people who were taken from us way too early. And what we'll notice is Joe Biden is commuting their sentences. So here is what he says. I've dedicated my career to reducing violent crime and ensuring a fair and effective justice system, while he let in 15 to 20 million people, a significant portion of whom were criminals, a significant portion of whom were murdering innocent people in the United States. And now we're learning, lighting people on fire in New York City subways. But he says today, I'm commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 individuals on federal death row to life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now, these commutations are consistent with the moratorium my administration has imposed on federal executions in cases other than terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. So now we have a distinction here. Joe Biden is drawing the line on the death penalty at mass murder and hate-motivated mass murder, which is an interesting area to draw the line. So in some places, it is okay for the government to kill people. In other places, it is not. Now, generally, I am against the death penalty because our government is extremely fallible, and we've killed innocent people on death row who should never have been killed before. And there's this first principle in law that you'd rather have 1,000 guilty men go free than 1 innocent man die at the hands of your own justice system. Because if you pervert that, if you start to say, we bend on that one little principle, then you have the inversion of that, which is where we're okay killing at least 1 or a couple innocent people just to get the bad guys. And that's how you end up in a tyrannical government. So because our government is so terrible at prosecuting people and they do a bad job, and because death penalty litigation and death penalty executions are a lot more expensive than keeping somebody in prison for life, I believe that we should be consistent on life and cherish life at all turns, whether we're pro-life on the abortion issue or pro-life in government executions. But my distinction on this particular case is that in these cases, these jurisdictions did have the death penalty that were already in place. And so these jurisdictions have ruled upon this. So it seems like what Joe Biden is doing is making some people, including those terrible child offenders, making them above the law, which is a strange thing to do from a party that said that nobody was above the law. He says, make no mistake, I condemn these murderers, grieve for the victims of their despicable acts. And you also have to think about the finality of these things. The people who were the victims of these crimes, they've already been promised those executions. Okay, that's already been something that was given to them. So if you were the president and you were against the death penalty, I can understand the distinction for this, But why, if his distinction or his going, making these commutations, but if his problem is a moral problem with the death penalty, I don't know what he's hanging it on. Like, why is he saying it's okay for these 3 other people, but not for the 37? It's just because the type of crime, which is strange, because that sort of means he's like okay with people, doing those things to the kids. Like, that's not a death penalty worthy thing. And I think our articulation is not that it's based on the severity of the crimes per se. It's that the government is not to be trusted with life and death matters because they're terrible at it. So you can make those debates. Some debates in some states, they say, let's do it. Let's take them out. And those victims in those states, they've been promised that. Now that's being taken away from them. Merry Christmas. And they ache for all the families who've suffered imaginal and irreparable loss. Well, they're just getting some salt poured in there. Now, but guided by my conscience and my experience as a public defender, my chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and now president, I'm more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level. In good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted. So Trump cannot come in here and do it. So 3 people will still be on the death penalty list, and those are going to be the Boston Marathon bomber and others. Let's see who they are. In a stunning act of clemency, we saw who was there. Let's see. Sorry, just lost this. Here it is. The 3 men on death row who did not get a commutation: Boston Marathon bomber Dokazar Tarnsov, who, along with his brother, they killed 3 people in the Boston bombs; Robert Bowers, who killed 11 at a Pittsburgh synagogue; and Dylan Roof, who killed 9 Black Charleston churchgoers in 2015. So maybe it's a number of deaths, you get the death penalty. But if it's just a couple of kids who were raped and murdered, then they don't get the death penalty. So you see how you can get into very prickly positions there when we're talking about these things. But it feels to me like there's probably a lot more pain that was introduced into this analysis, into these cases, than maybe was necessary. And if I was in Joe Biden's position and maybe somebody came to this request, maybe I would just sit there and look at the cases and say which ones look like they have a possibility or some reasonable doubt to them, right? Because you're basically overturning the verdicts of your jurors who found these people guilty and sentenced them to death. So Joe Biden, I don't know if he did that at all. Did he give him a close look, or was this a blanket decision? And if the blanket decision was that someone who killed people at a synagogue or a church, they deserve death, but somebody who took out an 8 and 9-year-old doesn't deserve that. Maybe he did make a distinction and he's in favor of some things, but not in favor of other things, which is just very Joe Biden. So let's take a look now at this article saying Democrats are in big trouble. Big problems are brewing for them. As you can see, Politico reporting, even voters who previously backed Democrats cast the party as weak and overly focused on diversity and elites. You're kidding. You're shocking, I know. Democrats conducting postmortems on their sweeping losses in 24 are now finding even more reason for alarm. Not just Kamala, not just Joe. In a trio of focus groups, even voters who previously backed Democrats cast the party as weak and overly focused on diversity and the elites. That's according to research from a company called Navigator Research. When asked to compare the Democratic Party to an animal, all right, you guys pick one. Compare the Democratic Party to an animal. Don't look at the screen. I was thinking like a goose was the first thing that came to my head. Like a goose running around, just like being goosey. But they compared it to an ostrich because they've got their heads in the sand, are absolutely committed to their own ideas, even when they're failing. Yeah. Another likened them to koalas who are complacent and lazy about getting a policy win that we really need. Democrats, another said, are not a friend of the working class anymore. Yeah, here we go. We've got, some pretty obvious ones here. We've got pig, rat, coyotes, chimp, Tasmanian devil, skunk. We've got snake in the house. That's a good one. Anteater, chameleon. Chameleon's a good one. Rats, yeah. Jellyfish, squishy, peacock, snakes, yeah. So there's a lot of things. That's an interesting survey that they would give. What would you compare them to? Ostrich with their head in the sand. Now, the focus group research shared first with Politico represents the latest troubling pulse check for a party still sorting through the wreckage of its November losses. Without a clear party leader, Democrats are walking into a second Trump presidency without any strategy. And so the Democrat Party, as an entity like a koala or an ostrich, big trouble. You don't want to be part of the ostrich party, but that's who the Democrats are. All right, now let's talk about Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione appeared in court for his arraignment, and he was not alone. His fan club was alive and outside and cheering for him. We're going to go through the full proceeding, but this is the scene out there, and they were cheering for him, not only outside the courthouse in Manhattan, but also on Saturday Night Live. We'll get this clip coming up. We'll play it. But the big story on the day was the arraignment itself. We've got the full 13-minute hearing that took place today, and Luigi Mangione himself was explaining that he is entering a plea of not guilty. We hear him speak, and he's there in the courtroom. They got him all dressed up. A lot of the lefties, like Taylor Lorenz, are salivating themselves. Hey, he's so handsome and dreamy. We love people who shoot other people in the back. Oh, my goodness. And they can't take it. But we'll listen to what happened here, because this is turning into a political case. We're also seeing that the attorney, the defense attorney who's representing him, Laura Loomer, is explaining she contributes a bunch to Midas News, which is a mega lefty organization. We know she was also a contributor to CNN and Caitlin Collins' BFF. So it's interesting how this is all aligning. This was the scene inside the courthouse. The clip came over from Scootercaster NY over on X. Make sure you give her a follow. But here's what it looked like inside the courthouse. Mangione in cuffs walking down for his arraignment. Little smirk on that face, right? You saw that little, kind of doing one of these. Right there. Okay. Interesting. Interesting facial expression to see there. A lot of media paying attention to him. And we were not expecting to get any video recording or live stream from inside the courtroom, but there was. But before we go inside, here's what the scene looked like outside the courthouse. Once again, from Oilia Scootercaster, who's over there in New York, bringing us the goodness. This says health care kills something. Kills more than a bullet. Healthcare something kills more than a bullet. So free Luigi. And we can't tell how many people are out there shouting that, but the fact that they're shouting it at all is very curious. Now, they're not alone. The audience over on SNL, they love Luigi too. They love shooting people in the back. It's their biggest joy in life. Here is what they sounded like when this guy was going through the story.
Luigi Mangione dropped. Yeah, definitely woo. You're wooing for justice, right?
No.
Luigi Mangione dropped his extradition.
No. They weren't wooing for justice like he got arrested and arraigned justice, like he's going to be convicted for shooting and killing a person in the back. Not that kind of justice. I think that they're calling it street justice, like they're happy that he's dead because he was the CEO of a big company.
Fight and was flown from Pennsylvania to New York to face multiple charges. In related news, Bumble exploded.
All right, so they love the guy, and it's a strange state of affairs when that is the heartthrob of America. Now, here is him in court, Luigi Mangione in court, sitting next to his defense attorney, smiling, looking happy as can be. And part of this might be her instruction. Okay, she might be telling him, smile, 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 smile. Be happy. Don't be sad. You're innocent. Innocent people are happy because help is on the way. Show your body language in a positive manner. Very well is probably something she's telling him, and he's probably executing it. She knows what the media is listening to. She knows the SNL ladies in the audience are going to be screaming like that, so she's exploiting it, which is a smart thing, in fact. But here is what it sounded like inside the courtroom. We've got the actual not guilty plea from Luigi Mangione himself. You can hear him say that right at the start of this hearing, and then we'll let it play through to hear the arguments of the prosecutor and Luigi's defense attorney.
24, charging you with the crime of murder in the first degree and other related charges. How do you plead to this indictment, sir? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. People?
Your Honor, we have a copy of the indictment, notice of immigration consequences, as well as rap sheet. I believe the court has it. We give the court an extra copy and one to counsel. Does the court wish that we be heard with respect to bail?
Well, what is the situation with the federal authorities? They have a security order on these defendants?
As we understand that we have primary jurisdiction, and we have been informed by the U.S. Attorney that they intend on allowing us to try our case first. So with respect to whatever goes on there, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the trial and the sentencing will take place here prior to anything that takes place in the federal system.
So that, what you just said, the answer is it's fine if we take custody today.
That I'm not sure, because Your Honor signed a writ in which it says that we're going to return the defendant to federal custody. So I think that would be step two. I do think that logically, as the party with primary jurisdiction, the custody should be here, but I asked the court, in light of the court signing the writ indicating that we would return him to federal custody, that be done at a later time.
Okay, so remember, he got two sets of charges. State charges in New York for murder and weapons crimes, I think 11 in total, plus the terrorism aggravation charge because he wrote on the gun and the bullets, and it was intending to cause terror, they said. Then he also got hit with the federal charges, basically the same thing minus the terrorism stuff. And when we were reading through the federal indictment, we were asking, are they going to come in here and take this thing over? Maybe they don't trust Bragg. Maybe they think they overcharged him on terrorism. Turns out they're just going to wait. So they're going to let NY handle it first. Then they'll pick it back up after the fact. And what they're talking and debating about right now is who has physical custody over the body. He's got two criminal cases. Should he be housed with the feds or should he be housed with New York? Because the feds are deferring to New York. This prosecutor is saying New York should house him in their jails.
Well, I've been through this before, and if you do that, they will rid him right out of here. So, don't think
Judge says if I do that, then they're just going to come take him out of here.
I'm going to do that. But if you work it out with him, that we will take custody rather than us bringing him back for any proceedings, that would be great.
We will make every effort to accomplish that, Your Honor.
Okay, so work it out with them. The order, who's going where, because he signed a writ that allows him to come here for the arraignment and then go back into federal custody. They're saying, well, how about you just cancel that writ and just let him stay here? He doesn't have to go back to the feds. He says, you work it out with them.
But there should be some kind of detainment, and we know that.
Yeah.
As their security order changes, there should be some mechanism that he's brought here,
Absolutely.
and then you can do that. All right, is there anything further?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to make a record, if that's okay with Your Honor. First, we'd request immediate expedited discovery in this case. The people have had this case for about almost 3 weeks, and that's more than enough time to gather as much information as they can give to us, especially now that we have two proceedings that we have to answer to, one of them being death eligible. So we are requesting that we get immediate discovery of the New York City Police Department and FBI and federal and state documents. And the second thing I want to make a record of, Your Honor, is I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he is entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated. And as you know, Your Honor, there's a wealth of case law guaranteeing his right to a fair trial, but none of the safeguards have been put in place yet here. In fact, it's just the opposite of what's been happening. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball between two warring jurisdictions here. These federal and state prosecutors are coordinating with one another, but at the expense of him. They have conflicting theories in their indictments, and they're literally treating him like he is like some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. He's been cooperative with law enforcement. He had been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea was in their arsenal. And to have all of these, the press there, the media there, it was like perfectly choreographed.
Giant show.
And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference, Your Honor? That just made it utterly political. And as Your Honor knows, under Lauro v. Charles, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has held it to be clearly established that these staged perp walks to the media, unrelated to a legitimate law enforcement objective, is unconstitutional. And I submit there was zero law enforcement objective to do that sort of perp walk. There's absolutely no need for that whatsoever. And frankly, Your Honor, the mayor should know more than anyone of the presumption of innocence that he too is afforded when he dealing with his own issues. And frankly, I submit that he was just trying to detract from those issues by making a spectacle of his.
That's good. Okay, so she's calling out Mayor Adams because he's been criminally charged as well. She's like, maybe we should perp walk you down there too, Mayor Eric, for your little bribery situations that you got your free airline upgrades. How about we perp walk you right next to Mangione? You see how fun this is going to be?
Mr. Mangione, and there are consequences to this. He has a right to a fair trial, and I just want to put on the record statements that the mayor made publicly about my client. Nothing saying alleged, for example, and he said, I wanted to send a strong message with the police commissioner that we're leading from the front. I'm not going to just allow him to come into our city. I wanted to look him in the eye and state, you carried out this terrorist act in my city, the city of New York that I love. And he wanted to show symbolism. Your Honor, he's not a symbol. He's somebody who is afforded the right to a fair trial. He's innocent until proven guilty. And the mayor was talking to jurors, future potential jurors that elected him. Those are the people that elected him, that he is.
Okay, now compare and contrast that as we watch this prosecution in this jurisdiction. Remember, Trump got prosecuted in this jurisdiction by Tish James and Alvin Bragg, and both of them did the same type of garbage. Trump didn't have a perp walk, but they were making statements and campaigning on prosecuting him. Now, she's making similar arguments, and they're good arguments.
talking to and calling this man a terrorist. So, Your Honor, I just want to make a record of this and put everyone on notice that this has to stop, and my client is entitled to a fair trial and the presumption of innocence, and we're going to fight these charges, whether it's in the state or federal, to the fullest extent. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, well, as you know, I have very little control of what happens outside of this court. But I can guarantee you, as I guarantee every defendant who comes through these doors, that the defendant will receive a fair trial. And we will carefully select a jury if that time comes or when that time comes. But yes, you should expedite discovery.
Your Honor, the discovery in this case is voluminous, to say the least. I have never seen a case with such volume of evidence, aside from the issue of the quality of the evidence. And I suggest to counsel, because we have a discovery portal, but given how much evidence there is against this defendant, it would be smarter if counsel could provide us with a 2 terabyte external drive rather than rely on the crashing of the portal. With respect to statement and identification notice, we will be giving that notice within the next 15 days. We're preparing an ADF. We'll do our best to expedite discovery, but I'll say that with redactions and with the volume of it,
what are you
we're
redacting?
hoping to do it as best we can under, this is not a usual case in terms of the thousands of hours of video tracking and the like, and the fact that we're not only responsible for discovery in this county, but in Altoona, where the arrest was made and where several officers were involved. And we're in touch with those people, and we're going to get everything counsel's entitled to. As to other issues, I think a 30-day adjournment to see where we're at, and to, of course, counsel's aware of the various notices. We have notices as well. I take it that counsel will abide by the statutory limitations on their notices with respect to any notices they believe to be appropriate. As to counsel's record on the mayor, basically repeating what the mayor said, I don't know how that advances the ball. We will comply with our ethical obligations with respect to trying this defendant's guilt in this courtroom and this courtroom alone. Thank you.
All right.
So tell the mayor to watch his mouth. All right, so that's the hearing. So as you can see, pretty short hearing. He was arraigned, and I think it got cut. Oh, wait, hold on. We still got a little bit more to go. I don't know why it got cut off. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. They had a little bit of a pause, and then this is on their recording, not on our end. 30-day adjournment. They might be picking new dates. Explaining what's happening. I'm not fast forwarding. This was on the Fox 9 recording. And those are hot mics. All right, so he got arraigned, explaining him his paperwork. Enter a plea of not guilty to these charges. All right, then they turn, yeah, okay, then they turn the audio off. Yeah. Yeah, all right, so that was still hot audio. And so they're fast forwarding through there, and counsel, you want to move those mics or make sure they're muted, because that they were picking that up there for a little bit. And now he's signing some stuff. I acknowledge I received all this stuff, my rights. Don't know what they're saying. And it might be some extradition stuff or some back and forth there. Okay, so that was all off the record. Now we're back on the record. Somebody says we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right, this was like the live stream from them, so let's see. See if it's going to play for us.
Ready to go. You can have it.
Can you take this? Can you take one picture too? Can you take this? Okay. No worries. It's okay.
Okay, so it looks like we went off the record there for a little bit, and then they probably scheduled a new date, so we'll see when that new date is.
Your Honor.
And then signing maybe some extradition paperwork or some custody paperwork. Of course, notice of what had taken place in that courtroom there. Got copies of all that stuff, and his attorney will be back with him. But that was the arraignment, and this is Laura Loomer, who is explaining that his attorney is this woman. Her name is Karen Friedman Agnifilo, and she's somebody who contributes over to Midas Touch. And Midas Touch, of course, is a very, very big lefty news conglomerate. And so she's over there. I can see how this case will continue to get even more political as she's now waging war against Mayor Adams and against some of the elected officials there. So she'll continue to fight for Luigi Mangione. Meanwhile, these fan club fans will continue to follow him around. We'll keep our eye on this case. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. We'll have more motions, more hearings coming up soon. Thanks for being here as we cover them. All right, my friends. And one final segment on the day before we jump in and hear from you on all of these things and more. Rand Paul. Festivus is back. Rand Paul with his annual list of government grift and waste. We'll go through and hit some of the highlights. During this holiday season, he posted, "I'm back. I'm not as back as the Trump folks are. They're so back. I'm just back," which is good. Not everybody can be so back. But what are some of your favorite Festivus traditions? Says, "I try to get everybody to do the feats of strength on the Senate floor. Who has a higher average age, the Senate or the top touring musical acts? Tough call. Springsteen, Mick Jagger, Dylan, or is it Chuck Grassley? Who knows?" So he's got jokes today, Rand Paul. But what he does every year is he releases this report. And this report is fresh out of the oven, a 41-pager, the Festivus Report. 2024, Festivus, if you're not familiar, comes from the show Seinfeld, where they had a pole that they replaced the Christmas tree with. And it is where you air your grievances. It's where you explain how much you're upset with all the things. This year, Rand Paul is highlighting, what the heck number is this? Okay, that's millions, that's billions, that's a trillion. Woo! This year, a whopping 1 trillion in government waste. What's inside? Ice skating drag queens. $12 million Las Vegas pickleball complex. $4.8 million on Ukrainian influencers? What? And more. No matter how much money the government has wasted, politicians keep demanding even more. And as always, he's been fighting just like Doge before Doge was even cool. Rand Paul has a lot of problems with you federal spenders. Now you're going to hear about them. Here's some of them. There are ghost towns. The federal government spent $10 billion on maintaining almost entirely empty buildings. And there are some photographs of this, so check this out. Government, here are the empty buildings. $10 billion on these things. Totally empty. $3.3 billion high-end office commodities between 2020 and 2022. Here's one example. The CDC, while they fear-mongered America, it was installing solar-powered picnic tables. So the CDC, solar-powered picnic tables for $237,000. Why do you need solar panels on your picnic table? I don't know. But they also spent $10 billion on empty offices. Here's what some of them look like. Government accountability photo. Nobody's inside. What are they doing? Nothing. Totally ghost towns. Even the busiest offices barely ever reach 50% capacity. It's COVID, telework. These buildings were underused even before we learned how to unmute ourselves on Zoom. $2 billion in annual costs. The federal government is spending $5 billion on leases. That's a lot. Also, how about this? A Florida man stole $8 million in COVID funds. He bought an island, which, I mean, we're looking for an island at one point, the Watcher Island, but it's going to take some time until we can afford that. But I don't know. I never thought about just stealing from the government because did they care? He got $5 million bucks. Wow. Your tax dollars also paid for the Department of Interior and a $12 million Las Vegas pickleball center. See that right there? So they can go play pickleball with themselves. Federal budget. How much? 12 million. Man, it must be amazing. Here's another one. The Department of State wasted $330,000 to fund censorship of non-liberal and conservative media. Isn't that great? Left-leaning sites were labeled less risky, but the rest of us got smeared and censored. They took $2 million to study kids looking at Facebook ads. Seems reasonable. So that they can study how they respond to those. Taxpayer dollars. There's a hotel that is no longer a hotel. They spent $100,000 on a non-functioning hotel for whatever reason. And that's chump change. Okay, $100,000, that's like, the cost of a hammer for them. So here's a direct file fail. Congress spent $15 million, there's a real number, to turn the IRS into an unconstitutional force to prepare, file, and audit your hard-earned money. $15 million for the IRS. Rats. Nearly $500,000 on the study of lonely and starved rats. The animals. Yeah. Says here, the Department of Energy is burning $15.5 billion, that's a big one, to push Americans towards electric vehicles that they don't want, as we know. They're not happy about that. Influencers. Who got paid this money? $4.8 million on influencers from our government. What? American taxpayers struggle under the weight of inflation. They're paying Ukrainian influencers. $15,000 on an influencers event, $22,000 on a social media influencers campaign. In addition to the $174 billion in aid to Ukraine for TikTok dances. Cirque Day taxpayer, here's more. For the National Endowments of Arts, they got $365,000. Girls just want to have funds. Yeah, girls just want climate funds. Yeah. $3 million for girl-centered climate action in Brazil. Not even in America, man. Can't we fund girls just want to have funds in America? Here's one. Almost $1 million for the Royal Film Commission for movies in Jordan that we'll never see, which is, okay. Here's one. Goalpost and grandstanding. Counter-terrorism by playing football. That's a good idea. Here's one. $700 million for bailouts. Yeah. $280,000 for DEI. Wow. National Science Foundation spent almost $300,000 to ensure bird watching groups have safe spaces, aka affinity groups, because you don't want to be offended while you're out bird watching. Okay. Interesting, wasteful. Americans are paying almost $900 billion in interest. Okay, look at that. That's almost more than our entire military budget. I think it is more than our military budget at this point. Interest, credit card interest. Yeah. Handouts to Ethiopia. Shout out to the Ethiopians. Man, they got $500,000 for what? Who cares? Biddy bo biddy boo. There go your tax dollars too. $7 million for various magical projects like the Magical School Bus or the Magic City Discovery Center. Or $388,000 for a 6-episode per season deep dive into magic. They paid a lot of money for that. How about border security? Oh, yeah. $2 million went to Paraguay for their border security, but our border's wide open. Art, $300,000 for art. Oh, that looks beautiful. Looks like Hunter Biden did that one. Wow. Looks like a bunch of garbage just got assembled together. and like somebody took some super glue or something and then dumped it on the street. Okay, $300,000 for that. No, it's a 16-foot tall pigeon sculpture. That's it. That's it. Oh, that one is it. There's the pigeon sculpture. That's one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. 300 grand. Great. All right, so that's going up there. More money for art. Fertilizer money is manure, but they're going to use that fertilizer in Pakistan, Vietnam, Colombia, and Brazil, not in the United States, because apparently we don't need fertilizer. Fauci, he funded feline COVID experiments. He spent $2 million to experiment with COVID on our animals. Force-fed experimental drugs to beagle puppies, which was one of the sickest things you've ever seen. Cut their vocal cords. And he targeted kittens and cats. Do you hear that, internet? Do you hear? Kittens and cats and beagles. Fauci, that dude is just the worst. All right, going viral. They also spent 100 grand to teach the Kyrgyzstan youth how to go viral. So if you're wondering where all those Kyrgyzstan influencer videos come from, you're like, man, I don't know how these kids are so viral all the time. 100 grand, that's why. All right, here's one. Spinning kittens for science and motion sickness. What? They put a bunch of cats in a roller coaster or something? They spent 1.5 million to shock kittens. If you learn that your money is being used to electroshock kittens, torturing them, would you be happy with that? Well, they are. In these nightmarish experiments, female kittens are the preferred victims because they're more amenable to this. These kittens, often 4 to 6 months old, are trained to endure long periods of restraint. They're strapped to hydraulic tables that tilts and spins them to give them severe motion sickness. What are they doing? All right, Catstipated, $10 million for another cat experiment. DARPA, extremely invasive experience where they cut the cats open, expose their spinal cords, this just got dark real fast, inserts electrodes into their spines. The hell's going on here? More ducking waste in Mexico, too. The country's $36 trillion, but they're paying for Mexico ducks. All right. Birds go to Baghdad, $20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. That's great. News we wish was fake. They gave $250,000 to Bosnia to fight misinformation over there. $90 billion. The Navy sinks billions on our ineffective Navy. 90 billion, that's a big one. And so the list just continues. Now here come the drag queens. The National Endowment for the Arts awarded Bearded Ladies Cabaret 10 G's to support a cabaret show on ice skates focused on climate change. Here's one. Taxpayers, 32 grand for breakdancing. Remember that one? And there's the list. There's the sources. Rand Paul is sick of the government waste. And that was a little darker Festivus than normal, because we got cats now being experimented on. Cats and dogs. They're cutting the cats. They're cutting the dogs. Cut the dogs. They cut the dogs. Thank you, Fauci, for that. We're not happy with that, my friends, but we appreciate Rand Paul bringing us the Festivus 2024 report, showing us how disgusting our government is during this holiday season. All right, and now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. We covered some great segments. If you're just joining us, we did a little bit of an update on Matt Gaetz, and we read through his response to the report and how he is defending himself and saying that what they have published in their little ethics committee panel is defamatory and egregious. We read through that. If you missed it, definitely catch that, because Matt Gaetz is saying none of it's true. And a lot of people in the media will take that ethics committee report as gospel, even though we know there's a lot more to that. We also talked about the commutations from Joe Biden on the very heinous people who have been found by a court of law to be deserving of death. Joe Biden says, I'm above the law, and gave them commutations. We also spent some time seeing what happened with Luigi in court as he was there with his attorney, the attorney now creating a wedge in the government of New York, which is a very smart tactic, to say Mayor Adams is weaponizing the justice system against her client. And then, of course, we wrapped it up with the Festivus report. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this. Merry Christmas, my friends, and happy holidays. Very glad that you're here and with us on this lovely Monday. This will be our last stream until after Christmas. So tomorrow we're driving back down to the Valley to celebrate the holidays with the fam. And then we'll be back here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so we'll hopefully see you back there, back then, full of delicious food, loving family, and tremendous gifts. All the things that are here, and the Holy Spirit. Now, let's hear from you and let's see what you say about this, because we've got some great donos that came in. Thank you, my friends, for sending these in on this beautiful Monday. Let's see who's here today. Yes, this is the Festivus gift from Seinfeld. Festivus for the rest of us. And that, of course, is Kramer and Frank. Yeah, Frank, who is George Costanza's father. Yeah, great show. All right. So here's one from Jesser Bob. Says, Rob, great job at AmFest. Super proud of you to jump into conversations with new acquaintances and make them feel comfortable while speaking with you. Keep rocking it, brother. Thank you, Jesser Bob. And it was super fun. It was like, you never know what's coming next. Hey, who are you? Where are you from? What did you say? What's up with you? And it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Jesser Bob, for hanging with us. It was great. And by the way, the AmFest, we're going to create clips of every single interview and create an AmFest playlist. The team is going to be working on that, and those will come out after the holiday because everybody's taking a break. But thank you, Jesser Bob. Lenny Malley says, please smash the like button, baby. Please like, share, subscribe, share on all social media and all platforms, and God bless you. And thanks for the reminder, Lenny. Thanks for subscribing, my friends, before you head out. Lady Ice says, I just saw this. A Washington ex-police officer was convicted without a jury for supposedly leaking sensitive info to Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys while they were obstructing and providing false testimony. Gotta love these judges who don't think we need all of our rights like a jury or our peers. A retired police officer in the nation's capital was convicted of lying to authorities about leaking confidential information. From Lady Ice. Thank you, Lady Ice. Glocky says, this committee literally says he didn't commit any crimes. I know. They didn't find any evidence of that. They found substantial evidence, but not enough for probable cause to lead to an indictment, according to the DOJ. So what is your evidentiary standard then? What is it? Reasonable suspicion? What is it? The committee did not find sufficient evidence. Yeah, we read it. To conclude that there were commercial acts, that they were induced by force or fraud or anything. Thank you, Glocky. Flea Speech. Hey, thank you, Bobby G. Another great year of watching The Watchers. A small dono for Eric's house. Thank you, Flea Speech, over on Rumble. God bless. Merry Christmas. Love from Denmark. Hey, Denmark, what do you think about the idea of Greenland? I think we're going to take it. And, hopefully you're okay with that. Hey, Glocky says, hey, the committee is in for one heck of a big lawsuit. They screwed up bigly. Key figure in the Gaetz report blasts the haphazard, sloppy committee and demands a retraction. There you go. So good. That's great. That's the problem with releasing everything last minute. Glocky, thanks for that. Lawyers representing Christopher Dorworth noted that he's unhappy with this, calls it reckless. Great. Ravicus says Matt Gaetz is contemplating running for Senate now. So they are using the charges as a preemptive strike to kneecap Matt. Yeah, I think we saw that. He mentioned that at AmFest, right? At AmFest. Hey, Jesser Bob says new career opportunity, commercial intercourse coordinator. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're like you manage a golf course or something, like you manage multiple golf courses. I'm a commercial intercourse coordinator. What? Yeah, I coordinate things intercourse. What? All right. So seek you find Q. I smell Kevin McCarthy. It stinks to high heaven. Kevin is a vindictive SOB. He blames Matt for his exposure as being backstabbing sellout to the American people. Think Madison Cawthorn. Yeah, it feels like a very Kev thing. Totally. Kev's talking to these people. McConnell's talking to these people. Yeah, it's all going on. I think that's probably right, CQ. They need to squeeze something in before Gaetz gets too far from the fire. Right now, his butt's kind of in the fire. If he gets too far away, everyone will forget about it and the fire will flame out. Power Cell, you remember what they were doing in that Senate Judiciary hearing room where those two dudes were indicting each other in there? Yeah, it was gross. No elected member was ever shamed or punished over that. No ethics committee report at all. They covered that up, man. They didn't want to talk about that. Those two dudes were jousting each other in the halls of Senate, in the Senate. Amy Klobuchar's like sitting there the next day. She's like, what is this? What is it? Anyways, next witness. But Zionist person is here, says, Epstein's lawyer, Dershowitz, will be monitoring my anti-Semitism. He will? Fairly easy to say this is the most Zionist cabinet ever appointed by a president. World War III time for Israel, LFG, says this person. Crash, what's up? Here's the tip regarding Fetterman and Carl. Crash, what a nice dono. Thanks for that one. Says here, this is from Crash over on Locals. Here's a great comment from Crash with a very generous dono. Merry Christmas, Crash. Thanks for the dono. All right, says Rob, here's the comment. I want to assure you I am fully clothed. Thank you. That's good news. Good to know. I am an incredibly flawed individual, very flawed. Yet I have been blessed with riches beyond measure, not silver and gold, although I have been blessed with them as well over time. I've told my sons often as they were growing that their stature as a man can never be measured by their wallet. Wisdom is the marker of a man. Wisdom is not large, broad, or expansive. Wisdom is granular. It is transactional. It is parochial. It is above all else experimental. Wisdom comes to us piecemeal, incrementally over time, building upon itself through heartache and trouble, growing quietly, unseen, until its blossom showers us with light and understanding. Ask Lady Ice and her gorgeous Carson May, little baby, Knox and her twin granddaughters, Orlando and his deep loss, and all the others who have allowed us to share their angst concerning their dads and moms and loved ones. We have endured with them quietly, often prayerfully, with love and appreciation for those we may never have met in person. I can say with absolute certainty that Senator John Fetterman has endured crisis and deep trouble that brought him to the brink, even to the abyss of death itself. He was fortunate enough to have survived and emerged on the other side a much, much wiser man. The true effect of attaining wisdom is already being felt. He was hardcore a true believer, yet it wasn't Fetterman that intrigued me most in his Carl interview. It was the visible effect he was having on Jonathan Carl. We watched this exchange this morning on our members only stream. It'll be coming out later. If you watch Carl's response with a critical eye, he was clearly asking, what's going on here? Carl was being swayed, at least incrementally, by Fetterman's responses. No, Carl is not yet MAGA, but he seemed to be open-minded to the extent that he was seriously questioning and considering his own positions. The light was or is dawning on him. Could Jonathan Carl be the first domino to fall amongst the MSM? A bridge too far? Probably. But hope foisters and fosters endurance. From Crash to Contrary in the house. Thank you, Crash, for the nice comment. And I thought it was I noticed that too. It was an interesting exchange. I sensed a little bit of disbelief in John Carl. Like he's like, what? He said like Trump? Like he's like Fetterman said, Trump's a political force of nature. He said, Trump is? Yeah. Carl's like, yeah, I know. Dang it. It's true. It was a good interview. John Fetterman, something got jangled correctly up there. NY says, and if I were Gaetz, I would take the seat he won, and then I would just F with them. At this point, like Gaetz resigned to prevent the report from being released. They just released the report. Can Matt take his seat back? No takesy backsies, but could he take it back? Pure Blood, what's up? Thanks for becoming a supporter. Welcome aboard, Pure Blood in the house. Ravicus is joining us too. Says, an appeal to heaven. Put on the full armor of God. Thank you for that. From our friend Ravicus on Locals. Hey, Mock Schnell is here. Mock Schnell is bringing in 20 new membos. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Look who's coming in. Fermi's Paradox, Swede for Dragon Believer, Bill Carson is here. Tyrannia Cygnus, WV Sniper. What's up, Kelly Sell now? T. Surratt, Rosie, Gundam Exia, Josh Powell, Jake, Lady R, Profess Falcon, Tom McCleavney, Anthony, Cornelius Knuckle. We got Kellyanne Monet, C. Swader, Belma Omanovich, and Micah D2 in the house. Gifted membos courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thanks for doing that. Mock Schnell stopped by this morning on the Membo stream and said, how can I gift people membos? And here he is, Mock Schnell, or she, Mock Schnell. Thanks for that. Diana Ward, welcome aboard. Thanks for becoming a supporter. Diana Ward, thank you for that. We'll see you. Grab the stream from this morning. Voice says, I don't believe in capital punishment being used unless it's the most heinous of crimes. Biden's commuting of these people, he shouldn't have, says Voice of the People. This old guy says, if they want to support Luigi, they should first opt out of their health insurance and just try to deal with their medical bills for a year. And I see what you're saying. Yeah, like put your money where your mouth is, right? Vote with your wallet. Oh, you hate the health insurance industry so much? Well, you can just pay for everything on your own. You're welcome. I see where you're going with that, this old guy. Hey, Combat Boot Mom says, I wouldn't dare equate some Democrats with God's creatures. He created them for a purpose. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to that one, Combat Boot Mom in the house. Very nice, Dono. Thank you for that. And your 5th ever on a live stream. Thank you for that, Combat Boot Mom. Glocky says, bruh, who the hell is going on in your state? Who is actually running things? That's a good question. Here's what this says. Jeff Clark, I've come into possession of documents showing that Arizona AG is working on its election lawfare with a group founded by Journal Lawfare and Color Revolution leader Norm Eisen. Thank you, Glocky, for flagging that. I didn't see that from Jeff Clark, but shout out to Jeff. Interesting. Okay. Hey, Crash says cameras in New York court. Adding to an orgy of evidence, they're going to add a camera in the courtroom. Something makes me more and more skeptical. 1 and 1 ain't adding up to 2, says Crash. Yeah, that's right. Uncle Bozy says, Rob, I've always been curious as to how a person can be tried for the same acts in both state and federal courts. Will you explain how it's not double jeopardy? Thanks and Merry Christmas. Well, we've got federalism. We've got 2 systems of government. We've got a federal government and state governments, and we've got 2 separate statutes with parallel jurisdiction. And what you'll find, I think, is that, what's the test? It's not Brandenburg. There's another test. It's another B test. Brandenburg and there's a test that when the elements don't match up exactly, it starts with another B. I can never remember it. And then it comes to me and it's like, yeah. But it starts with a B. And if you have different elements, like if they're the exact same elements, then it's double jeopardy. But if they're different elements of offenses and you can charge them differently, like it's a violation of another sub-offense, then it's not double jeopardy. And the name of the case is escaping me, but it starts with a B. Blockburger test. It's called the Blockburger test. So if you look up the Blockburger case, Uncle Bozy, you'll get more there. I think it's Blockburger, if I'm remembering it right. And why? The case is going to be a big disappointment to many. Mangione never had United Health. His sister is a physician and his family profiteer with nursing homes where some of the worst exploitation of humans take place. I believe he had a psychotic break in his zeal to understand non-standard pain relievers post-surgery from NY. Uncivil says pickleball is based though, LOL. I've never played pickleball, actually. I've never played it. And people keep telling me to play it. So what that means is I'll never play it. That's how it works. Uncivil, I'm glad you enjoy it, my friend. I heard it's super fun, man. A lot of my friends play it. They're like, you have to come out and play. I'm like, I have to? Like, yeah. I'm like, well, I'm not going to now. Uncle Bozy, throughout the 20th and the 21st century, radical leftist progressives have never had any problem with murder, whether it's CEOs or unborn babies. That's true. Yeah, I've always thought that was a contradiction amongst conservatives. Like conservatives are pro-death penalty, but they're very pro-life. I'm like, wait a minute, what? You're like a conservative who's anti-government, but you think our government is competent enough to execute people? How's that work? I never understood that. They're like, we value all life except that dude. And you just kill him like with a shooting range. Like, what? All right, that feels a little off. But I also understand it. I mean, when you hear about, like, I get it emotionally. You're like, man, that dude just did what to an 8-year-old, 9-year-old girl? What? Okay. And it's also the problem, I think, like this is part of the human condition, is you want revenge. It's like, we want blood. Well, we don't even know if that dude did it, but we still want blood. And we've killed innocent people in this country, and that's not okay at all. Uncle Bozy, thank you. Bruce Wayne, just need a grant to study island life, and you can buy the island. Yeah, we're going to do, maybe Trump will give us $8 million for an island. We're going to go study making islands great again. We're going to do watching the watchers from an island. Here you go. I have 8 million. All right. Combat Boot Mom. What a nice dono, Combat Boot Mom. My family and I prepare to celebrate the birth of Christ and Hanukkah from snowless Idaho. We wish you and your loved ones a joyous Christmas and a blessed new year. By the way, in 3 months when I have this baby, I'll need to change my name to Sarah and my husband's to Abraham because we're old farts. Well, we love our old farts here the most, especially our old farts. We love you guys. Hey, my family and I, shout out to your family. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Combat Boot Mom. What a really generous donation. Thank you so much for supporting our work. You know, I always get a little, I don't even know what to say. It's so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll recognize you no matter how many times you change your name, Combat Boot Mom. We'll keep you here and in our memory banks. Snowless Idaho, huh? No snow in Idaho right now. So we just moved to Prescott, and they were telling us, our neighbors. I said, "Do we get any snow up here around Christmas?" He says, "Sometimes right around Christmas or right after." And I'm like, "Well, we're getting pretty dang close to Christmas, and I'm not seeing any snow up here." And I kind of want some snow because I grew up in the valley. I'm an Arizona boy. I don't think I've ever been waking up to snow. And I know that might sound weird for those of you who are like, snow? You want some snow? I kind of do. I kind of want a little bit of snow. I'm sure many of you are buried in snow. The last thing you want is some snow, but I kind of want to just dabble in it a little bit. Thank you, Combat Boot Mom, for such a nice dono. I'm really grateful for it. Thank you for supporting us. We couldn't do any of this without you, Combat Boot Mom, and everybody here. Thank you for the nice gift. I'm really, really grateful. Hey, Fred Pedamonte. Welcome aboard, Fred Pedamonte. Welcome back. Sorry that you left in the first place. Just kidding. Fred and I go way back. And his good boy Johnny's right there too. Crash, Festivus chump change, Rob. I've got 2 good hands. I could use 2 hammers worth of Festivus grifts. So what's that, like $2 billion is what you'd be getting? After 2.5 years, never missed a single show membo, says Fred. Well, I think that's true, Fred, because you also are a membo on Locals too. So you joined up on YouTube too, man. So it's great to have you in both places, Fred. We love you. 2.5 years. Thank you for always being here, my man. Appreciate you, Fred. Crash, Rob, I don't need a whole pigeon. I just need 385 grand of pigeon droppings, and that would do. It's a lot. It's a lot of pigeon poo. Crash, Rob, I draw the line with drag queens. They can keep that grift. Don't want that one. Sport says, Sportfish, what's up, Sportfish on Rumble says, happy holidays, Rob. Lemon, AJ, Donut, Brad, Buzz, Jacob, Dog, Jim, and the gang. MAGA 2025. Shout out to our Rumble friends chatting over on Rumble. We appreciate everybody following us everywhere. Thank you, guys. And Merry Christmas. Spuds, Rob, I am with Glocky McLock. But I think Trump has been in the process of building a third party by uniting former Dems like himself, RFK Jr., Tulsi, Elon, under a biglier tent party. I understand the idea of a third party, but I think we just take over the Republican Party, okay? All the neocons, all the open border lunatics, all the big spenders, they can just go. They can go form their own party. The Republican Party is now the MAGA Party. Everyone else can get the hell out. Johnny Appleseed, we won, they lost. Bye. Johnny's Appleseed says, give Panama a second chance to turn over the canal. Is that what you're saying? Okay. We'll give you one more chance, but just one. Do not make us ask again. Please be advised. This old guy. Thanks, watchers, for a great year with you. The jokes were intelligent. when they didn't come from Rob. Logical inquiry provided me with hours of pleasure. I want everyone to have a festive, safe, and joyful New Year and Christmas holiday. Rob, you're the best. Thank you, this old guy. I think that about you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Rob, you're just the best. Thank you, this old guy. Sharpie Guy says, no pastay recipe, no peace, Rob. Please share with us, the less fortunate, without Rob's mom or a lady resembling Alexis. Please share the recipe. So over on AmFest, my mama brought pastéis, these delicious little meat sacks. I don't know what they are, but they're delicious. And Sharpie Guy's demanding the recipe. I don't know. I got to talk to my mom about it. I think it's in a vault behind 256 key encryption, AES encoded, encrypted by the CIA. Hey, Sharpie Guy, Merry Christmas, y'all. And stop sniffing kids, Joe. Stop it. He became a supporter. Welcome aboard. Stop sniffing kids, Joe. You think he has stopped? No, he didn't. He tried to get that kid on the Christmas thing on his lap, and the kid ran away like a smart kid. NY says the next stream is on Thursday. Yeah, I think that's going to be the safest bet. Next stream will be back here on Thursday. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to lay out, because we're driving down tomorrow and back up on Christmas, and it's going to be Thursday, I think, will be next. So we'll be here. Indeed. Thank you, NY. Shane Sousa, this one is a Christmas present to all the mods in the house. Shane, thanks for being here for 7 months. Hey, Jack Mack is here. Jack, I saw you at AmFest. I saw you come skidding by the booth, and I know we didn't get a chance to say hello, but I saw you there. Chuck E. Cheese, Aaron was there. I saw your bro, right? I saw your bro. Go Ho Shane is here. Bobby T, Nordic Cowgirl, Jack Mack in the house. Great to see you, Jack. In the house. Thank you for being here. Says, hey, it's the Munkets is bringing in 4 membos. Lori Flynn, welcome. Wayne Coulter, Blue Star, Diana Mead, Ms. Yoda in the house. Tony, hey, Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. And we appreciate you being around. John McGarvey says, speaking of old parts, you need to update the YouTube badges to go longer than 2 years. Can I do that? That is a good idea. Can I do that? Yeah, that would be good. Thank you, John McGarvey. That's right. I should do that. Hey, what's up, Radicy? You know, after that pat at AmFest, if you wake up to snow on Christmas, you need to get down on one knee and buy a ring right now. All right, so they caught me on the AmFest stream. I don't know what you guys... I was just assisting her momentum behind me. I wasn't doing anything. I was just assisting Alexis in her momentum as she was walking behind. That's all it was. Jack Mack, Merry Christmas to Rob and your family and to all of the watchers here. Thank you, Jack. Find joy this season and keep those who are alone or struggling in your thoughts and your prayers. Thank you, Jack. Indeed, we are and we will. And those who are not with us this holiday season. I know there are many, and we remember them as well. And remember that we'll all be reunited again. Hey, Knox, just got here. Welcome, Knox. Merry Christmas. Thank you, everyone, for living through this year with me. It was a hell of a year, Knox. I know. We're not done yet. We got a little bit more. We're going to come back. We're going to round out the year at the end of the week. But you're right. It has been a heck of a year. And it was pretty precarious there in that fourth quarter, man. It's like fourth quarter, 2 minutes left on the clock. We're like, how's this going to go? And we won. We emerged victorious because we've been working hard. We've been putting our training in. We've been handling our business, and we emerged victoriously. Dapper Dan, what's up, Dapper Dan, says, Rob said dapper. That's you, Dapper Dan, in the house. James Pepper says, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. This is a video by the American Bible Society on my work in handwriting and illuminating a Bible, King James Version. Thank you, James. Fred says the death penalty costs taxpayers on average $1 to $3 million. Fred has a lot cheaper way to do it, and he could make America save some money again. So thank you, Fred, for volunteering for that. It's very expensive to have somebody executed in America. It's all the appeals, much more than housing them in prison for life. Be torn. Merry Christmas to Rob and the Watchers. This is a safe video to play. And so be sure to check that out over on X, my friends. As you can see, we're live streaming on X. You can follow us at Rob Govea, ESQ, if you want to check us out over there. But my friends, it has been a beautiful and an amazing Monday stream. Thanks for joining us as we near the holidays. We're going to go over to locals. We're going to debrief for a bit, hang out, say hello to our friends there. We'd love to have you join us. We had a great members only stream this morning as well. This morning, we talked about a bunch of good stuff, including Caroline Levitt, the debt ceiling. We talked about the canal, Panama Canal, and Greenland. It was a fun one. And then Tom Homan is saying that their days are numbered over if you're an illegal alien, which is good news. So fun stuff this morning. If you just became a member, check those out. If you're on locals, we're heading over there to hang out, debrief for a little bit, and we'd love to see you over there. Before we round it out, want to thank our amazing mods and our meme smiths, K Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, Janek, modding the fort down for us, keeping things so nice and orderly, and our friend John McGarvey, always helping out. But my friends, mods, thank you for that. We have our Spotlight supporters, Mitchell Townsend, MJ Powell 101A, and Anthony Pedicini are our Spotlight supporters on YouTube. Thank you, gentlemen, for supporting us and being here. We also want to shout out WatcherLodge.com. If you go to WatcherLodge.com, you can grab the free daily show notes and the PDFs. They're all posted over there. Become a member. It's free to do it. We post a summary of the show notes with all the links that I go through, all the PDFs that we went through. If you want to read it in further detail, it's all over there and you can grab it. Don't have to pay a thing. So that way you can get a summary of what we talked about if you're not even interested in watching the show. What do the show notes say? These are the links. You can check it out. WatcherLodge.com. And of course, our new website, robertgovea.com. Check that out as well. And my friends, that's going to be it for us on the day. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and then the following after day is going to be Christmas. How did I say that? Why did I say it that way? I don't know. But I guess I'm just excited for a beautiful holiday. My friends, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for rounding out this pre-holiday season with us. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a very Happy Hanukkah, the happiest of holidays that you can possibly have out there. We're going to come back in a few short days from now. We're going to get into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful Christmas, my friends. Merry Christmas. I'll see you right back here on Thursday. Bye-bye.